All right, in transition, short sales are coming. We made a point of that. Short sales will be important in our economy next year. You're listing them, you're working them in some capacity. We've got Brian Hout, who manages my short sale department. Right now, there's around 180 units there. Forgive me if any of you have tried to work with our team in the past. It has been a challenging situation getting that on beam. We are working hard, moving it over, trying to get transparency with website access, things of that nature, things that you can work on. I'm making public apology. That has been a struggle and a challenge. We're working it through. I have Brandy White Elk. Brandy White Elk invented a short sale. Me and Brandy were doing them in 05 and 06, and we were like patterning off each other. Yeah, exactly. We were trading little short, notes and trying to figure out where to go and what to do. We're going to do more of that today. Short sales are coming. When we think about total efficiency for you guys, how many of you list short sales at all? Had one, we'll have one tomorrow. Okay, half the room at least. When you say, Jared, what is your thinking on short sales? And I'm going to let you guys carry it from here. I think of short sales in this way. I always think of buckets, right? Putting your bucket under a demand. I think of short sales in a pattern of the following. How do I get them through the door? And how do I classify that to know what I'm doing? Well, you have uncooperative sellers and uncooperative banks. There are times when you have a cooperative seller and an uncooperative bank. You have an uncooperative seller and a cooperative bank. And then there's times when everybody's cooperative and you have the best case scenario possible, right? If I'm talking to you guys, how do you meet those challenges and letting you kind of transition the conversation in the direction that you want to take it? If you would probably agree with me that not every listing is the ones that we should take. We don't want to have the widest bucket in this inventory. This is something me and Brian have been talking about the last 2 days. What is your approach and what would you advise in short sale efficiency? Brandy, I'd like to take.
Sure. Well, this is a really funny conversation because he sent me over these questions and I was like, can I be not PC? Is it okay that I'm kind of authentic and true to everybody? I don't look at anything as buckets, guys, and if this upsets anybody who knows me in this room knows that I'm going to tell you the truth of how I feel about it, okay? So here's the bottom line. I don't look at anything as buckets. That every single homeowner out there that is upside down, whether they're cooperative or not, whether they have a crappy bank to work with or not, they want your help. I will take every single listing because more often than not, most of the most uncooperative sellers that we've been getting that come in, I guarantee you the second you get that full release of the lien, full release of the debt, you're not going to have to pay any money. They become cooperative very quickly. Okay? I don't put anybody in buckets. If you come to me and say, I want help, I'm going to help you. That does a couple different things. The first thing, you're doing that right thing for the seller. He's asking for your help because there's so many professionals out there in this industry that you guys will probably agree with me that have no business taking a short sale listing. How many would agree with me? Okay? So we need the professionals out in the industry that understand, that care, that know how to process short sales because there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to. They don't take the time to, or they don't have the compassion enough to do them properly. The other thing that I want to focus or explain to you guys too is that every single time you take a short sale listing, they're going to come around eventually. If they don't, you know what? You've done everything. There's a book called All You Can Do Is All You Can Do, and If All You Can Do Is Enough. And that book really made me look at short sales differently because you do what it takes to get that seller done. 2, you have a sign in the yard. That's marketing. How many buyer calls do you get off that sign? Are you working those buyer calls off the sign? I know our office is. Okay. The other question that you had was banks. People always say, what are your hardest banks? What are the challenges? Because what bank shouldn't I take? It's the same thing. You take them all of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the bank is. Do they have delegated authority, non-delegated authority? Is it and I'm going to say this, the knucklehead negotiator you got? How about asking for a new one? You know that you can ask for another negotiator. There's so many people out there that they get freaked out about short sales, get freaked out about banks. Jared sent me over a question the other day. What are your top 3 most amazing banks to work with and your worst to work with? And I was thinking about that because I don't actually go out into the field right now. blessing in the families. My goal in my office to go out there and help families, get these short sales done, explain, educate, do what I need to do for the families. I have a staff of people who do my short sales. I've got 3 negotiators that are amazing, and when I take the file is when we need to escalate it, or I need to speak to somebody higher up because my negotiators have kind of stopped at one point. But when we're looking at everything that's going on, I ask my negotiators that question, and I'll tell you, all 3 of them gave me a different answer, and I sent them to you. They all had different answers. So I'm not going to come here saying, well, this bank's bad, and this bank's good, and this bank, you know, because of how it's structured. It's not about that. You don't give up. You do whatever it takes. You get in there, you ask the people who you're sending your packages to, who's the boss, how do I get up, I need to escalate this, this is what I know. If you know how to do a short sale, it doesn't matter who the seller is, it doesn't matter who the bank is. Take the listing. Everybody needs you guys right now. Everybody. Do you agree?
Check that.
All right, good. First and foremost, I think a lot of you probably don't know me, at least in the real estate agent world, so just to kind of give a little bit of quick background. I was talking to Brandy just before we started here, and I told her basically that the difference between our experiences is that she'll know more nuts and bolts behind profiling banks, which banks play ball, those that don't, and basically packets that you submit and all of the little nuances, super valuable. For me, my experience has been in foreclosure. I don't think I've even sold or purchased a property that hasn't been in foreclosure or bankruptcy in the last 9 years. So I have the specific experience around distressed property, and as a business development manager, I probably spend more of my day with kind of the macro, the big pieces of the business, prospecting, marketing, setting up systems, infrastructure, and things like that. Having said that, I've touched the whole board of even the specific detail-oriented things, but sometimes I think I'm probably a year removed from doing the hand-to-hand combat with the banks with short sales. So I think that background, that experience, most of my answers will come out of that context. One of the things actually I want to call attention to is that when you hear Brandy speak, it's from an ownership role. And I'm not just saying business owner, but what I'm saying is the distinction between an owner and a victim. So, owners, well, let me talk first. Victims somehow, some way can't figure out a way to get their business to work, their life to work, short sales. And I think that the spirit of this event is to figure out for 2012 how we can get your business to work or work better. That's why we're all here. Put together ideas and say, hey, and that's the question that I come with. How can I make 2012 for me, for my department, the best that it can possibly be? So for one, victims, if you hear the language, will usually talk more about describing the problem. Bank of America, they did this and this and this and this and this and this. Spending a lot of time kind of describing the territory as opposed to talking about the solution. And I think with that notion, an owner will always figure out how to get a bank that doesn't play ball to play ball. And that's one of the things that I've picked up on there. Having said that, I think too that there's a little bit difference of approach that I would take, because I won't take all clients. I'd say 98%. Yeah, there you go. And that actually works. So again, here's the value in having a different opinion, a different approach. I think there's a value to that. But where I come from and where the department comes from too is to have the heart to want to help every single homeowner, to get every bank to play ball, so to speak, or to negotiate a win-win, which I think that everybody here is wanting to do. How to get the bank to yes. So that's the intent. help as many people as you can. But I would say too, to some homeowners, help me help you. So I'll give you an example of how it breaks down kind of on an operations side. Have you ever had a homeowner that refused to provide financials?
Yes.
Yes? Have you ever had a bank that said that they won't look at the packet or they won't look at a short sale packet without the financials?
Yes.
Yes. It's highly unusual to have a lender that will do a short sale without the financials. I know that Brandy's probably thinking, well, I've gotten some done without the financials, and so have we, right? But there's a lower probability of that happening, right? Can you get a transaction sold if the homeowner won't sign off on the deed? No, unless somebody else has power of attorney.
Or is it a robo-signer? No.
Or is a robo-signer.
Got the cameras.
Okay. So there are some criteria. I'm giving you some. So there have been two. There was one the other day that didn't want to provide. There were two parties. They were friends. Both were on title. They got in a fight. You know, one friend moves out, doesn't want to provide financials, but will sign off on the deed. So my advice to one of my negotiators was get the quitclaim deed first, okay, and have title do that. Don't give title advice to your seller. Have title get the quitclaim deed from the party that doesn't want to provide the financials, and then basically figure out a way if there to get around, you know, the party that doesn't want to, you know, provide the financials to see if there's a way to get around that. But the party that didn't want to provide financials would sign off. Once you get the approval, then I'll sign off. Well, let's get you off the deed to see if I even want to spend the time to see if the bank will do the short sale without the financials. Does that make sense? So then you get the approval, all of a sudden that party that's not cooperating decides, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't want to sign off. You know, you're 6 months of work and labor into it, and then they change their mind. So there are some criteria. We had another that the bank insisted that they would that they needed the financials to approve the short sale, and right up front they said, I'm not providing financials. And so then I wrote a letter to them saying, look, we want to help you. I'm not asking for the financials from you. I don't need them. It's not my requirement. And they've actually since been cooperative once I was able to have a talk with them and kind of help the
I can give both Richard and Knack 20 minutes marginally each.
Okay.
And Richard, you're last, so you can take us till 3 o'clock. So we have, real quick, if I'm the group, two really important things that stick out for me right now is we have a pretty good sized operation. Brandy's been running the business for a long time, the short sale business. I want to understand what your business structure looks like. How are your players, and which positions do they play, and how are you layered, okay? And we're obviously a two-person listing team and then back-end structure. And then my second question, and you can knock these down, and as we transition to social media, my second question, which I can repeat if you like, I'm finding one of the glamorous aspects of short sales, as we're finding those glamorous aspects, is, in theory, coming from the REO world, is that we don't have an expense load. I'm finding there are more and more challenges where agents are now in the middle of a decision to expense something for the property. Is that everyone else experiencing that? You may all have willing sellers, but you have some that don't care to pay for HOA documents as the seller. Some of them have abandoned, right? They don't pay for the final utilities for a home inspection. So I'm curious if you've run up against that, if you have anything that you speak to on that, if you have any treatment of that situation, because that's become something we've run into, I think, quite a lot on especially a more challenging seller, which is the out-of-towner. Further they are away from the property, less they care about whether it happens or not. So as we kind of wind down, give everyone an idea of how you lay out your team, or how you have, and then how do you approach the financial challenge, which might come as these sellers are now bound by NRS to do specific things for us as agents, or I'm sorry, for the buyer's side. They have to provide utilities a lot of times. either by contract or whatever, and then they have to provide other concepts. Brandy, want to go with that one?
Yes, first thing I want to talk on is handling objections with your.
Pass that microphone.
Handling objections with your clients, because as I go through and I talk about the elements of structure in my company, it's all about every single spot that you get to, you're always going to overcome and handle objections without fail. Okay, you're gonna have to reiterate it, reiterate, and if there's anybody in this room that's read my short sale packet, I know it's insanely retentive, and I'm a broken record, but I repeat, I get a yes, I understand, and that's very important through the entire system. When you look at a system like mine, when I go out, I talk to a ton of attorneys, I talk to CPAs, I talk to financial advisors. I go out into the community and find the groups of people are going to saying, help me, what do I do? Okay, a lot of my referrals and a lot of my short sales that I get are from those types of career-oriented people in the community, okay? So one thing that I would do, go find the groups that the masses are moving to for questions and answers. Whenever I get referrals that come in, they come into my office, I have an initial consultation with them or an initial phone call with them, kind of weed them out a little bit, find out what's going on, and then once I get all my questions answered, and I feel like this is something that they want to move forward or not move forward with, it's kind of like and I don't want to say good cop, bad cop, but I'm going to say they go to the next phase of talking to another person in my office, which is Karina's, because I go through an interview process. Clients need to understand and feel that they're getting value. Like Jared was talking about earlier, something that is for free, you don't value it as much. They need to feel like they're getting some sort of value. So once they get to step 2, we collect all the documentation. The first thing that I get signed without fail is the listing agreement. You get the listing agreement signed, you get that house on the market fast, and you basically tell your clients, listen, you have no options right now. You are in the exact same spot that you'll be 3 to 4 months from now if you do nothing. Okay, but if you do something, let the bank come back and give you options. Options don't hurt anybody because you can always come back to where you are now. Do you agree? Yes, Mike, you agree. And most of the time when I say that, they get it. They want options. So by the time they go to phase 2, we get the listing agreement. And then I have another source where I have one of my negotiators, depending on who we assign it to, we make sure to collect all the financial documentation. If we're getting any pushback on financial documentation, all we do is we circle back to, do you want options or do you not want options? There's always ways around the financial element, because you can say, hey, I will sign an affidavit getting you to understand that your documents aren't going anywhere. No one's going to see them except for this person in my office. I sign everybody off who's going to look at those financial documents. You need to find out right away, up front, what are your objections to the financials. You can overcome financial objections every time. Once it's assigned to a negotiator, the packet, I send the packet whether we have an offer or not, every time. Sometimes it gets kicked back, but now it's in the system. If you list the property correctly, and one of the questions that Jared put in there is, do you do BPOs? I do a BPO on every single one of my short sales. Without fail, it's not a question.
You submit up front or you submit it when there's a valuation hurdle?
No, I
You do
submit
it
it
every single
before I
time?
even get an offer that comes in.
Interesting.
Okay, and the reason why is because I can prove to that bank not only what I list the property for, the marketing time it takes, but then an offer comes in, and I've already done my BPO prior to the offer, then do I look more valuable to establishing my value to the bank? Usually, if I price it properly. So I always do my BPOs up front. And just like REOs, and everybody who's in this room, I'm going to tell you, I have quite a few REO accounts like Jared. My REO accounts, over half of them, I got them because I was submitting BPOs on my short sales.
It's interesting.
Your BPOs on your short sales are your resume and your portal, your gate to REOs. Because if you do an amazing BPO, because they're getting BPOs from REO agents, right? BPO agents. You will be amazed at how many other agents do just very poor BPOs. Very poor BPOs. And so make sure that you put in that BPO when you first put your packet in. When that offer comes in, you can justify it. Make sure that you have a super key, not a manual box, on your short sales, because you can pull those reports. I'll tell you, a lot of times, those reports that I'm pulling off of my super key and proving that the volume, people going in the door versus the offers that you're gonna get, that closes a lot of my short sales, because if I can prove, if I've had 15 people through the house and I have one offer, what does that tell the bank?
Right.
Something's wrong.
Yep.
So at each checkpoint, something's wrong. Jared also asked about systems. Okay, I use 2 systems. I have eBroker House. If anybody's used that, I love it. Love eBroker House. And that's for offers coming in. My short sale processing system, the best in the entire world, bar none. Nobody can argue with me over it. Short Sale Commander.
Yep.
It is amazing. Short Sale Commander is just amazing. There's
Yep.
so many things that you can do in Short Sale Commander.
Good. Hey, and what I'm going to do, Brian, if you'd be so kind to stay around after Brandy, I know it has to be somewhere else by noon. Stay after if anybody has any questions to put to Brian. He didn't really have much time up here. But we will close the short sale to give enough time. Brandy, thank you so much for coming. Brian, thanks for coming as well. Brian,